Let's go to Adriana from Independence. Adriana, good morning.
Good morning. How are you all?
Oh, well, thanks.
That's good. I think that Sabbath should be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 4 days a week. God knew what he was doing when he said, keep this Sabbath, make it holy, keep it holy. He knew what he was doing because he knew. He looked down through the ages and said, these people are going to start taking pills and this and that and medications, and because they're so stressed out. You know, and I honestly really do believe that it doesn't make a difference what day it is or what 2-3 days it is. You should take a day or a couple of days after the first 3 days of the week and make yourself just sit down, be quiet, don't do nothing. If you want to pray, go in the closet, do your thing, come back out, and call it a day.
Well, Adriana, I want to give you the names of a couple of editors of the Kansas City Star. Maybe you can straighten them out for me a little bit. Adriana.
Thank you for the call.
Thank you for, yeah, absolutely, Adriana. Judith, what do you make of that? Why not 3 or 4 days?
It's an interesting question, and Reverend Brian Ellison brought it up too. When do you take your Sabbath, and does it make a difference whether it's Thursday or Sunday or 10 minutes on Monday? I argue in the book that it makes an enormous difference, and that one of the, I talked about the criteria of the Sabbath. I didn't lay them all out for you because we'd be here all day, but one of the criteria is that it is a specific day that is communally observed, that everybody stops working at the same time. Now, why is that important? That is important because it's really hard to just sit down and take a deep breath and go pray in a closet, much as sometimes I like to do that. I don't pray in a closet, but, you know, sometimes I like to be alone. The point of the Sabbath is that everybody did it at the same time, and it defined a community, and it made it possible to have community. 6 days a week, you know, you labor, which means 6 days a week you're on your own, doing the thing you got to do to survive. You're not interacting during at least the hours that you're laboring, and then you're doing self-maintenance and taking care of your family and this, that, and the other thing. 1 day a week you stop all that, and you you look up from your desk, you look up from whatever you're doing, and you look at everyone else, and you're with everybody else, and that's extremely important. And that's, I say the fourth commandment has 2 political lessons. One political lesson is really obvious to all of us. Everyone, not just the elite, have the right to rest and not to work at for a certain amount of time every week. And the second political lesson, which is infinitely more controversial in this day and age, is that society has the right to make rules of time, and so that people can rest together, and so that a communal existence can happen.
And I should say I don't disagree, actually, because I think one of the realities of people sort of claiming their own Sabbath day is that your choices to not take a day as a Sabbath compel other people to not be taking a Sabbath either. You know, if I am driving on the street on a day, it requires there to be police officers and traffic maintenance workers, and that no choice we are making is truly an individual choice unless we are really resting. And I appreciate that.
You know, Rabbi, I was going to say the idea that Judith just threw out, this idea of people doing this together. There's a lot of power in that, because I'm thinking to myself, if Saturdays and Sundays, if all of us had different days off, you lose something through that. There's power in numbers, I guess is where I'm going here.
I would say let's just start with each of us taking whichever of those 2 or 3, choose one of those days.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we can get enough of a critical mass on any one of those days, then let's talk about combining them into one day. I think that there is huge power in numbers. Just as people working on the Sabbath encourage others to work. So what happens if and when a group of people say, I don't work on Saturday because that's my Sabbath, and you can go about and have your craziness, and that's fine. That's your choice. It's also my choice to restore my soul. Yeah. That would be the most dramatic community organizing I can imagine.
Right. I think it would be dramatic. Now, we're sort of operating at 2 levels here. We're sort of an ideal and then a practical. How do we make this work in today's world? Barring I'm certainly a believer in the one person do what they can and hope that over time that changes. But in the meantime, you know, I have members of my congregation who have to work on Sunday morning to feed their families, and that's not an exaggeration. Who must be occupied with non-Sabbath tasks like laundry on that day because they are they are compelled to do so by the economic situation of their household. And until the world changes, some of these individual choices have to be put aside for higher reasons, like in this case, feeding their family.
One of the things I talk about in my book and I show is that we are increasingly on unsynchronized schedules in American and indeed in post-industrial society. And, because of the forces of globalization, some people are going to be, synchronizing their watches with the Japanese stock market. And also the forces of just-in-time manufacturing. An order comes in and the factory's got to go, got to work a full week nonstop, 24/7 to fill that order. There are all kinds of extremely powerful forces at work in our lives, making it extremely hard for us to be on the same schedule. The internet itself, insofar as it has no schedule and is always available, is a powerful temptation and is eroding temporal boundaries that structured our lives for hundreds of years. So I think what I argue is that the Sabbath idea, this idea of a structured period of non-productivity, of a time when the community can be together, is a very valuable one. And however we wind up implementing it in our lives, we need to remember it, because we're getting onto calendars that are so uncalibrated, we risk, really isolating ourselves from one another.